They figured it out. Thank goodness. I'm so passionate about this.
This is something that really connects you spiritually. Yo, welcome back to God Meets Therapy. It's your host, Jason JP Speaks, and my beautiful wife,
Dr. Ayo.
Yo, guys, we got an amazing show for you today. Faith over fear and why therapy might be the missing piece.
Ooh, okay.
All right, guys. So I know right now the world is super heavy. There's political chaos. There's global conflict. There's financial pressures, and everybody's kind of emotional fatigue. Everybody's tired. You don't know what to think. You're stressed out. Your job. You don't know if you're going to be safe.
That's right.
You know. But guys, faith over fear. So fear doesn't always mean you've lost faith.
Okay.
And sometimes it means your nervous system is out of sync.
Ooh.
And that's where therapy meets faith, guys. Okay. This is an important one today.
Okay.
So, guys, we're going to just, you ready? Let's just jump in this thing.
Let's jump in. I like that, talking about the nervous system. That's my language right there.
Because therapy isn't weakness. It's just resetting your nervous system. Yeah. It's getting you back on board and getting you back to where you need to be.
That's right. But a lot of people don't know that therapy actually does impact your body and your mind and make changes over time. They think it's something you're just doing.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, because some people, you might feel fine, but your body is reacting. It could have been reacting from a trauma. You could be mentally fine, but just like I had that accident, but my body still knows. When it comes that time of year, like my mouth gets numb, my knee might hurt, your body still feels the trauma that you go through. What do you think?
Yeah, and like anniversaries of death or, different griefs or job losses, people start feeling nervous, when certain things happen or when it's the anniversary of those difficult times. So 100% your nervous system and your body is kind of trying to tell you things sometimes that your mind isn't registering.
No, definitely. So let me bring this to. So I think everything's about alignment. So what does alignment look and feel like in a world that's upside down right now? Like, what do you think?
I mean, I think alignment from this perspective is when your emotions and your body and things are happening to you and you're trying to line them up with your thought processes, right? So matching up that kind of mind-body connection. That's kind of what I think of when I think alignment. What about you?
Alignment isn't perfection. It's peace under pressure. True alignment is when your nervous system stops fighting what faith already knows.
Well, I mean, do you think your nervous system and your mind having different thoughts means you don't know, and that maybe faith needs to come in there and reorder and like actually kind of digging into your faith and being stronger in your faith can help realign? Or you think the realignment has to happen and then the faith comes?
Yeah, I think it kind of has to work together. I mean, you have to train your mind and your body at the same time. You have to teach your body to calm down. Like, I love to meditate and calm down because it works with your mind and centering your body and bringing those together. And I think prayer actually helps with that as well. Yeah. But I don't think prayer alone. I think prayer, and sometimes you might have to do yoga. Sometimes you might have to meditate and just calm your mind and your body down because they need to work as one.
Yeah, I think sometimes you're totally right. Even if you're praying and focusing on whether it's, requests or building your relationship with God, you're not necessarily training your body to face and focus on and be calm in those moments that are difficult. So I like that peace under pressure. That hit hard for me because when pressure builds, some people turn into diamonds and some people crumble.
Right. And some people, people go to their previous pattern that they've done. Rather, some people go into dating multiple people if they got hurt. Some people go into drugs. Some people go into gambling.
Yeah.
It's different things you fall back on from what you're used to doing. And that's kind of hard. But honestly, I think when your thoughts, body, and your spirit agree, then you find clarity.
Yeah. And I think that's where therapy can come in to help you join that mind-body disalignment or misalignment, because some people don't even realize that these things are happening.
Right.
And someone is pointing out patterns for them that they don't necessarily agree with. Because some people tell you, like, you might need therapy or you might need some help. And they're like totally shocked or even offended.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to see yourself because you are in this bubble. Or some people, you have tunnel vision, so you're not seeing yourself from the everybody else's angle, which is good and bad. Sometimes you need to be in that Jedi tunnel to to get you to where you're going, but it can also hurt you. Like I know when I went through after my brother died, I basically went into a tunnel focus. I couldn't let the outside world, I couldn't think about what happened. I basically suppressed everything, which wasn't good, but it also got me through. But I couldn't see what I looked like to other people. So I was reacting off trauma at times because you can only suppress so much. It's going to come back.
So did it come out for you in certain ways?
Yeah, it definitely came out often. I mean, I might have cried one day and been fine 20 minutes later, or I might have just lashed out, and that's how that poured out, and then I was fine, but it was like my cup was full. It was too much, and I had to let it out. So
yeah, I think that's another thing. Like people say you can't pour from an empty cup, but sometimes emotionally, if you're already brewing and spilling over, then you can't take much more. So like we say, we got to bring the temperature down. We got to bring the heat down. And I think that's where therapy has helped us as a couple, right? Because you, again, in a relationship, don't always see yourself and your patterns. And you have called out a couple things for me.
But it's honestly for both of us. I mean, you don't always see yourself because you're not looking at yourself.
Right.
And you're only feeling yourself through each and every situation. So which makes it hard.
It makes it hard. You always feel right.
You always feel right.
It's like, I feel like this is the truth. So it is, right? It is so.
And the bad thing is like what it helps if we actually could film ourselves and see ourselves. That's like when people do these reality shows and they see themselves, they're like, oh my God, that was me. And they do a 360 haircut change, outfit change, the way they're talking is like, I'm not that person. They're humble. Yeah. When you see what you really look like.
No, I agree. That's funny. Yeah. Like I can think of people who either their behavior, fashion, and everything has changed after seeing themselves on a season that they didn't get to edit themselves. So yeah, it's good when you can edit your own story, but a little difficult when someone else is looking, including a therapist, because they're looking at you and telling you what your patterns are and kind of bringing that together for you.
I agree. So I think I got to bring this to the next question. So how does chronic stress trap us in fear-based thinking?
Ooh.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one because chronic stress means it's
constant.
Day in, day out. Exactly. With, it might be microaggressions, might be just a painful situation that you can't remove yourself out of. It might be a stressful relationship or a traumatic relationship. But I think from what you said, you can feel panicked or fear in those moments or even the moments in between. But from a spiritual perspective, I feel like God can give you the tools to reset, but therapy can also give you the tools to reset. But I think sometimes you have to bring those things together to connect the dots in those moments you can't see yourself.
I agree. And I think an unregulated nervous system will definitely keep us looking for danger when there's safety.
That's right.
It's like everything's fine, but you're so used to the trauma. You're so used to being in this traumatic situation. You're looking for the thing the whole time. So
yeah, no, I think that's where you waiting for the other shoe to drop, or you're trying to create drama with people or stir things up because you feel like something must be wrong because there's nothing going on, and that's what you're used to. So then you self-sabotage yourself.
I feel like that's like in a marriage and a relationship, your spouse is being nice. You're like, why are you being nice to me?
Yes.
You doing something.
You must have done something wrong. Why you bringing me flowers? What you doing? What's going on? Exactly. Not to downplay patterns, and if that is unlike someone to do that, then something could be going on, but to automatically jump to something must be wrong. Like, I remember even after your accident, like if I hadn't heard from you in a while, I'm like, he might have gotten into a car accident, right? Because that's had happened. And now, I'm like, maybe he's eating lunch, maybe he's on a call, So I think those are the things we can't always see ourselves in. But I think peace comes when you're not overly panicked in those moments that are difficult or challenging.
And we've got to remember that fear isn't always in our thoughts. It's in our body. Mm-hmm. And we get caught up in thinking, this is a mental thing when it's actually a physical thing. It's our body reacting to something from the past, but we're thinking that it's in our mind, but it's just physically in our body, which is kind of hard to explain.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's your body reacting.
Your body drives behavior, right? If you start feel your heart beating fast, you then want to do something to settle it down. Or if someone's talking to you and you get upset or frustrated emotionally, you might want to react or attack, right? And so people then start to think, oh, this is just the way I am. This is who I am. I'm just tough, right? I'm just mean, or I'm just angry, or this and that. But it's really your body giving you those cues that you're reacting on without slowing yourself down and thinking it through.
Right. And even like you could be talking to, you know, a friend or a spouse and been in a certain situation and your heart starts beating because you're, you know, the question that's coming up, and then you start reacting a certain way. Mentally, you get mad, but honestly, it's just your body. You're feeling this emotion that you felt before, and now you're acting out in a certain way when you can just literally just, you know what? I know my heart's beating fast. I know I'm anxious. I know I'm sweating, but you know, I can just relax.
That's
it's totally okay.
That's right.
But that's also a trained, and that's a habit that you created. So it's breaking that habit also.
It's breaking the habit. I think that's where the therapy comes in. Like, you can pray for, you know, peace. You can pray for humility. You can pray for being slow to anger, but understanding your body and the cues and how to put that with it.
Right.
That's, I think, the key that people need to learn. And I think therapy a lot of times might be that missing piece to help with that.
And I hate when people are like, you know, I'm a pray it away, but faith without works, they just forget the works part.
Yeah.
But it's all faith. It's
That's
nah, God actually wants you to do something.
That's right.
And know that it's going to work out and things are going to be fine.
That's right.
That's so hard,
100%.
though. You talking about entrepreneurship, like you be like, God, it's going to work, right? I hope it's going to work. But he said you got to have faith of a mustard seed in the workout.
Faith of a mustard seed, that's all it takes. And sometimes in those moments where you start overreacting or having those negative thought patterns and cycles, and you could just stop it with, you know what? I know everything's going to work out. That doesn't mean I don't have to do my part. I don't have to prepare. I don't have to work, or I don't have to, you know, take care of my kids or whatever be the case. But just knowing and having that small bit of faith that it's going to work out can help you act instead of be in your mind ruminating on things.
So I got to ask another question. I mean, I kind of want to dive into this a little bit more. Are we praying for peace while still protecting the patterns that keep us stuck there?
Ooh. Now, it's a possibility, right?
I feel like people are always, God, I want you to do this for me, or they're meditating and hoping that this thing works, but they're still living in the same dirty shoes that they keep walking around in. They need to clean the shoes off.
Clean the shoes off. Prepare. If you want to lose weight, you might need to work out or eat right.
You
right?
Put the snacks down.
Praying for this hot body. This hot body, God, just help me lose
these
weight.
Muscles this week.
Right. But I've given you a healthy body and a strong mind to be able to go work out. So God's like, I did my part. It's time for you to do your part. And I think that's where, in relationships, in our own bodies and minds, in our own situations, we kind of miss out on the piece that we bring into it. We're always talking about what other people did or what God didn't do or anything, and we don't look at what do we bring to that? Like, what are we doing or not doing that's contributing to these patterns, as you said, or habits?
Right. And I feel like therapy helps you let go of what your prayers have already outgrown. Ooh. So I feel like prayer or therapy actually really gives you the technique and the skills to be able to perform, or to what's a better word, to let me say that over. Therapy helps you let go of what prayers have already outgrown.
Okay.
So I think, you know, therapy is going to give you the techniques you need to move forward. It's going to give you the how to, you know, versus just God's going to show me through it. God's going to lead me through it. God's probably leading you with this therapist that you need to go see so you can figure out how to do it.
Or the things that therapy allows you to open your mind up to, or introduce, or a network or a partnership, or things that it will lead you to be more open to, you know, instead of being in fight or flight mode all the time, right? Like if let's say you're in a domestic violence situation or something like that, and you say, I can't leave because I don't have money, I don't have a job, I don't have childcare, right? So therapy might help you figure out and navigate those difficult situations so that you are strong enough and prepared enough to leave. That's why I just tell people, just make one step, right? Just take one step, and, you know, that's motivation enough to maybe get you to where you need to be.
And I say the same thing. It's like people don't build a house just by the thought. Like it takes one brick at a time, brick by brick, and enough time and energy, and that house is built. I mean, people have to realize you can't pray for peace while living in patterns built on fear. Like you've got to let that fear go. And just start to walk in your faith. You got to start walking what God has already given you,
Yeah.
what you prayed for, what you manifested. You got to
right.
walk in that. If not, then you're just sitting in the same place, hoping that something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And once again, faith without hope is dead.
Yeah, I heard something once and it said God wouldn't reveal it to you or let you see it if it's not possible.
I like that.
It was so fire for me because I've had dreams, and there's things I've thought about wanting to do. And it said, if you weren't able to do it, if you weren't capable, God wouldn't even reveal it to you. So
Right.
I'm like, dang, that's powerful. So all those things you've thought about or wanted to do or, really think could be your best case scenario, if you've thought about it, then God's let you reveal that to yourself. So that means you can do it. You just got to kind of do your part and figure out what this looks like and not expect it to be instant. We want instant results. I was hearing brick house in my head when you were talking about brick by brick and the house is built. Yeah, like you've built houses, right?
Definitely have.
And sometimes the house didn't look great.
Right. But you got to hire the right people. God's gonna put the right people around you. You can manifest the right people around you, so it works out. But yeah, that's definitely tough.
Yeah, but the patterns of fear, that's important because bringing it back to what you said, you can't pray for this amazing job if you haven't even done your resume because you're scared to put it together or you're scared of the interview process, right? Or scared of things that could lead you to that job. So I love that you said that pattern of fear. Then you can't have the things that you're faithful for.
But you also got to look at the perspective. If the way you look at something changes the outcome of it.
That's right.
Because technically you could look at like, I just failed. Did you fail or just figure out a way to not do something, which is more important, or a way to change something in a different way so you have a better outcome? But you won't learn that unless you go through the fire. You have to go through the fire because of what they say, fire builds diamonds.
But it's hard. It doesn't feel good to be getting burned.
Right.
I've been burned and it doesn't feel good. And we've talked about pruning and, the pain of being pruned and the waiting room, and that doesn't necessarily feel like the best time. So how do you make it through those moments?
Yeah, that is tough how you make. I mean, honestly, you just kind of have to go back to what prayer, meditation, and keep pushing it through and know that when you're meditating, when you're calling these things to you, they're going to come to you. The law of attraction is things are going to attract you. I mean, you can, if you just try it, it actually does work. Yeah. You're like, oh, did that happen? And then it's like, is it a coincidence or is that confirmation that how that's something? You take a step back, like, oh wow, that was weird that happened, but it actually did. So
and bringing it back to the nervous system and the neuroscience perspective, it actually changes your brain.
It does.
Every time you do something new, you're giving your brain new information, new outcomes, new ways things can happen. So when you just take a step or do something different or, pivot, you're teaching your brain, okay, we're good. Like that didn't work, but maybe this will, so you really do change your body and open up your mind. Like you taught me that because I had a way of like, okay, if I think of everything negative that could happen, then I could prepare for it. And you're like, well, why do you even think about the negative stuff?
Right.
Just focus on what could happen, the positive. And I'm like, okay.
And it feels so much better. I mean, because if not, then you have all this anxiety and stress, and you're creating stress out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we do that because we're worried so much about the outcome. But, that's when you got to give it to God. That's when you got to have faith that it's going to work out. It's not going to look like you want it to look, but it's definitely going to work out.
So, y'all, thinking the negative, preparing for the worst, is not necessarily going to make it be any different. So focus on the positive and the outcome you want, the things you need to do to lead to that good outcome, and let the rest be. That's hard, though.
Yeah, it's definitely hard.
I'm focusing on that.
So I guess we can ask, like, what happens when your body and your brain aren't on the same page?
Yes.
And honestly, I can say that's when you literally have to. I mean, I have a big component of meditating. Like you have to sit down in that quiet place, because if not, you're going to be inundated with social media, your friends, your family. I mean, you need to really get in sync with your mind, body, and your spirit.
Yeah.
To move forward.
Yeah. But if meditation isn't for you, I mean, I'm doing it more. It's not necessarily my jam. It's not necessarily things that I wake up and do every day. I love when we do it. I mean, I think that's when even talking things over with a friend, going to a therapist, getting those thoughts out and aligning them with whatever's going on in your body.
Right.
So you're telling a story about the past and your heart beating fast, you start sweating or getting nervous. You talk about something in the future that you might be worried about. And that's when you can start saying, let me connect those things. It's really in my body, and my mind can really control those things.
But I think it's important. I mean, you have to find, I mean, even talking to your friends, you can talk it through, but you still have to be, comfortable in your own skin and be able to figure this stuff out without the distractions of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Just focusing on the suppression part. Because sometimes, like, we're not talking about things at all. Our friends don't even know we're going through a tough time or that we've been depressed before because you're holding it all in. So I think at least just saying it out loud, writing it down, journaling, like some way to emote and have that be an out of your body experience, then helps your mind reconcile it.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, therapy creates a space for your body to catch up with what your mind already knows.
That's right.
So,
I do agree with that.
I mean, you kind of have to just slow your mind down and allow, this thing to happen for you without forcing the issue, or at least making space. I think that's the most part. Even with God, people need to make more space and time for God. You don't realize how many blessings you have and how, blessed we are with all that's going on. You could lose your job tomorrow. You could be sick. You could be hurt. We are one step away from trauma, anything, death, anything. So we just got to be thankful each and every day and just tell God thank you.
Yeah. I do believe not only gratitude, but
gratitude's a big one.
Big one. I'm a big believer in gratitude. I have been secretly my whole life before I knew it was gratitude. I've seen and grown up with people and things I never experienced, and I've always been grateful for that, no matter what I didn't feel I have or I lacked, But I think really challenging yourself to build a relationship with God.
Right.
So that you can be more resilient in the tough times, right? I think that's the key, right? People usually go to God during the bad times instead of talking to him in between and building that resilience.
But see, that's hard too. Like, how do I build a relationship with a God? And I feel like that's just like you would build it with anybody else that you know. You build it, you talk to them, you spend time with them, rather if that's in the word or you're praying or you're just sitting there in quiet, just listening to, his voice.
That's right.
Or meditating on the word.
I
mean, and honestly, if you're not hearing a voice from him, then you have to look at your circumstances. Maybe he's talking to you through a friend, maybe through a situation. You're praying for this to happen, and next thing you know, something's popping up. But you got to be aware that those things are happening.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And it's not always easy. And again, that's where you just take one step. Therapy is once a week. You start with talking to God once a week, right? Meditating, could be once a week, any of those things. That's where you have to say, what am I going to do and be intentional about to connect my, mind and body and align that and build a relationship with God. So you have that, full package for when you do hit tough times, because that's adulting.
And okay, well, honestly, this leads me perfectly into the next question. What does it take to feel safe enough to obey God boldly? Like, some people feel that they can't follow God because they're not living in alignment, or they're not living, but you kind of just have to take a step out there and allow, life to happen, or you have to allow that you're going to walk in the right ways and maybe stop doing what you're doing, or at least you're going to be convicted.
That's right.
Conviction is helpful.
Yeah, conviction is helpful. I think it's, the meet you where you are. Like, and that's the piece I love about being a therapist and a psychiatrist, especially working with young people. I meet them where they are, right? If one thing they will change, even if having the conversation with me, I say, hey, let's just have one conversation. Like, anything you can do, to really build something. I think that's the same thing about building your spiritual foundation. There's no perfect Christians, okay? There's no perfect Christians. So don't be scared that you're not perfect.
And I feel like when your body feels safe, faith flows without resistance.
Ooh.
If you just feel comfortable, I feel you have to get into a place where, you just kind of have to let go. We hold on to so much and try to force so many things, but God doesn't want you to force. He wants your life to flow.
That's right.
Even when you're coming up against some resistance, it's a reason for your resistance. Rather, it's pushing you to be great. It could be pushing you in a different direction. Right. Sometimes you just got to get in prayer and talk to God and ask him, like you told me, God, I need you to align these steps. And once you do that, there will be an answer. I prayed the other day. I was like, God, should we still be doing this thing? Yeah. And next thing I know, we get it a message from this person. We get another email for that. And I'm like, well, I think God just answered this.
That's
quick.
right. But you had to ask, right? You had to humble yourself. You had to be open to those actually being signs that lined up with what you were asking for. And that's where I think I've gotten, more open-minded in my relationship with God to see that he works in different ways. And sometimes people used to say, God works in mysterious ways. And now I know it could be an email, it could be a phone call, it could be a job change, it could be a boss change, right? It could be, any of those things could be working. And I think that comes to your point of kind of like be at peace with the fact that it's all going to work for good. It just might not look like you expected it. That's the tough part.
And I feel like you have to stay resilient and push out what you really want. Sometimes people sit in the backseat and be like, okay, God's going to figure it out for me.
Right.
But you got to call into existence what you want.
That's right.
And watch the way things manifest itself in your life. It's pretty cool how that works.
Yeah. But you got to know what you want first.
You got to know what you want. That's the hardest part.
That's the hardest part.
Oh my God.
Sitting with yourself, being honest with yourself, and really coming to that idea or that passion or that, thing you want, and just don't be afraid to name it and put it out there.
I love that. Love that. Okay, we got a few more questions and then let's wrap this thing up. But I do want to know, well, what does nervous system healing actually feel like? What does it feel like when your nervous system's healed?
I think it's not having your body overreact in situations that aren't present danger, right? And so, if you have been in a car accident, getting into a car could feel tough and stressful, and you haven't even sat in it yet, right? So when you are able to recall past events that were difficult, remember, things, talk about people that have passed that you're grieving over, when you're able to do those things and still feel at peace, I think that is when like, okay, this I might be healing, right? That's where the growth has come from.
Love that. Love that. So you're basically saying, so like healing feels like stillness that doesn't scare you anymore.
That's right.
It's like, because it's like your body is in this fight or flight mode, but once it's just things are calm and you're relaxed and things just feel good, I think you've come to a place where the thing that used to scare you doesn't scare anymore.
That's right. Or you still get a body reaction, but you understand it and you're able to talk yourself through it and have a better outcome.
Yeah. And I think the only way you're going to get there is just resilience, habits, faith, prayer, therapy.
Yeah. Might be the missing piece.
Meditating and just aligning your life for success.
That's right. That's right.
So guys, I got a quick question for you guys. So, what's something that you guys enjoyed listening to? What's something that affected you in this talk today? Like, how do you deal with resistance? Are you still fighting trauma? Does your body react to situations that you've outgrown already?
That's right. Are you walking in that life of growth and finding peace, or maybe is therapy the missing piece?
I love that. Love that.
All right. Let us know in the comments.
So see you guys next time. Check us out at God Meets Therapy.